In the first video I did on this topic, we talked about the four philosophies of Platonism, Existentialism, Postmodernism, and Zen Buddhism. Today we're going to talk about four more. Like and subscribe if you want more philosophy content, and don't forget to mention which one you resonated with the most in the comments. At the core of utilitarianism is the idea that an act is morally correct if it results in the greatest happiness for the greatest number of people. Deontology, which is the study of the nature of duty and obligation, is the opposite, as it argues the morality lies in the action itself, not the outcome. If you're more utilitarian, then in all likelihood you would pull the lever in the famous trolley problem. And for those of you who don't know what the trolley problem is, it's a thought experiment where there's a trolley on its way headed toward a fork in the tracks. On one side of the fork, there are 6 people tied to the tracks. And on the other, there's only one person tied to the tracks. In front of you is a lever. As it is, the lever has the trolley headed toward the 6 people. The question is, do you pull the lever to save the 6 people at the cost of the one? If you are utilitarian, you would easily see that pulling the lever is the correct moral choice, as it creates the greatest amount of happiness for the greatest number of people. Whereas a deontologist might decide to let fate run its course, because pulling the lever would make them essentially a murderer. Criticism for utilitarianism comes from the difficulty in discernment between whether or not a decision will result in a greater amount of happiness or suffering. What if the one person that was on the one side of the track turned out to be a prodigal surgeon who had already saved thousands of lives and would have saved thousands more? The philosophy of absurdism was created in response to existentialism, just as postmodernism was to modernism. It argues that there is no point in trying to find any meaning in an inherently meaningless universe. Primarily associated with the writings of Albert Camus, absurdism rejects the search for meaning, as it can often lead to confusion, alienation, and even despair. Camus compared the human condition to the myth of Sisyphus. For those unfamiliar with the myth of Sisyphus, it's a Greek legend where he was condemned by the gods to push a boulder up a hill for eternity. Camus saw man's search for meaning in a cold and indifferent universe as being similar. While absurdism is distinct from existentialism, they share some commonalities. Both philosophies grapple with the human condition and the search for meaning. But existentialism seeks to find meaning in individual choice and authenticity, whereas absurdism emphasizes the futility of that search. Critics debate whether absurdism is inherently pessimistic or if it offers an optimistic form of liberation. Some argue that by embracing the absurd, it can lead to that form of existential freedom, while others contend that it can lead to nihilism and the very despair that it sought to escape by abandoning the search for meaning in the first place. It's not a religion in the traditional sense. It's more of a comprehensive worldview that focuses on ethical behavior, social harmony, and moral cultivation. Confucianism has had a profound impact on Chinese culture, society, and more broadly, the entire East Asia region. Ren, which means the benevolence of humanness, is at the core of Confucian ethics. It refers to a deep sense of compassion, empathy, and kindness toward others. And practicing Ren involves treating others with respect and cultivating a sense of empathy and human connection. Junzi is an archetype of an ideal person who embodies qualities like integrity, righteousness, and wisdom. The Junzi strive to cultivate their moral character by making decisions based in ethical principles rather than for personal gain. Confucianism's emphasis on filial piety and social hierarchy has influenced family structure and gender roles. While traditional gender roles have evolved, Confucianism's emphasis on respect and duty have remained. Some critics argue that emphasis Confucianism has on hierarchy and respect for authority could be used to justify authoritarian regimes. Additionally, the focus on maintaining traditional norms and social harmony could hinder progress and even limit critical thinking. Last philosophy we're going to talk about today is one we've discussed already many times on my channel because it's one of my favorite philosophies, and that is the philosophy of Stoicism. This ancient Greek philosophy teaches that virtue is the pinnacle of all values. Stoics believe that they should focus on the things that are within their control instead of wasting time worrying about the things that aren't. It's a misconception about Stoicism that Stoics abandon all emotion. It's just that Stoics typically have recognized the futility of negative emotions in 95% of situations. Oftentimes, negative emotions like anger and jealousy and anxiety can lead us to act in ways that we later come to regret. Stoics believe that through the practice of discerning between the things that are within and outside our control, we can cultivate the ability to react less with negative emotions. They argued that to live a truly virtuous life, one must live in alignment with the core values of Stoicism, which are wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. And that only through this can we achieve what they called eudaimonia, which essentially broke down to happiness or good-spiritedness. Critics of Stoicism argue that the excessive emphasis of emotional detachment can lead to emotional suppression or detachment from genuine emotional experiences. Some argue that Stoicism, it oversimplifies the complexities of human emotions and responses to life's challenges. So which of these four philosophies spoke to you the most? Also, would you pull the lever if you found yourself in the trolley problem and you didn't know anything about the 7 people on the tracks? Also, what would you like to talk about next? Which philosophies would you like to discuss? And as always, memento mori, which is Latin for remembering death. This Stoic practice helps us to live our lives to the fullest and to cherish the time that we have. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night and an awesome life. Alrighty, bye-bye.